Hello everyone! Today we have a very special review. It's the successor for the Rainbow controller, the Rainbow 2 Pro from BigBigWon. One of the biggest cons of the Rainbow controller was that it was a wired controller only, but the Rainbow 2 Pro is finally wireless, while maintaining the same RGB rainbow effect of the first controller, and it also has a charging dock. Everything is neatly organized in the unboxing. Here's the charging dock. The additional cross-shaped Dpad. And we have two extra sticks with different heights. We also have the 2.4 GHz dongle that's capable of reaching a 200 Hz of polling rate. And we have our charging cables, a QR code for the BigBigWon app, and our manual. The first Rainbow controller had a clear plastic with a glossy finish. While this was very cool because it let you see the internal components, it also made the controller a fingerprint magnet. On the Rainbow 2 Pro we have a matte finish with a completely black back shell, with rubberized grips, back buttons, and trigger stoppers. And my favorite addition to modern controllers, shortcuts on the top. The face buttons have rubber membranes and they are easy to press and have a good travel distance. The analog sticks are removable and they have a metal ring for protection. And the controller also has anti-friction rings to complete the package. The shoulder buttons have mechanical clicky switches, while the plus, minus and capture buttons have rubber membranes, and the home button has a clicky switch. The D-pad has clicky switches too. And it is pretty easy to remove and replace with a cross-shaped D-pad. With the cross-shaped D-pad, the controller looks extremely similar to the BigBigWon Blitz controller. But they have different ergonomics. While the Blitz tries to mimic a Pro controller, the Rainbow 2 Pro is inspired by the Xbox controller. The back buttons are easy to press in any point and in any direction too. The top shortcut buttons are also very easy to press, and they sit in the perfect spot, right at the tip of your fingers. The trigger stoppers have only two levels, a halfway press and a full press. The controller also has a headphone jack. This headphone jack won't work with Bluetooth connectivity. It must be used with a wired connection or with a 2.4 GHz dongle. And here's the three heights of analog sticks available, with the tallest one being really tall, just like the Mobapad M9. This one is amazing for shooters. By pressing and holding B plus home, the controller will turn on in the X input mode. The lights will be green. With A and home, it will change to the switch mode. And with Y and home, it will change to the PlayStation mode. This mode is used to connect the controller to the PlayStation 4 or 5. But the connection can only be done with the 2.4 GHz dongle and an original DualShock 4 controller. I'll explain how it works later. You can activate custom lights by double tapping the function button, and the lights can also be turned off. In switch mode, the controller can wake up the console. And the button layout will be in the switch mode. And one of the best things about this controller is the 4 shortcuts. In Metroid Prime, I set all of the shortcuts to quickly access all of the different weapons. And with these front buttons, you can easily configure all of the shortcuts however you want. For example, to remap a button, all you have to do is hold the shortcut button you want, and then press the remap function. Now just press the button you want to remap and you're done. To erase, repeat the combination, but double tap the remap button instead. To record a macro, you must hold the macro button until the LED starts blinking. And to erase is the same process. And another cool thing about this is that you can combine the functions. Here I'll combine the remap function with the turbo function. This way I have a dedicated turbo button without interfering the original button. The vibration levels can also be adjusted. As well as the turbo speed. The last button is for changing profiles. You have 4 different profiles here, and you can store different configurations for each one of them. And the controller is fully compatible with motion controls. On the computer, the analog sticks has no dead zones in the axis. And the circularity test is pretty good too. Without the trigger stoppers, you have a full press on the triggers. But with the trigger stoppers enabled, you'll have only 20% of the button press. And here's where the Rainbow 2 Pro disappointed me the most. The D-pad is not very good. The diagonals aren't easy to press. You can't press them by rocking your thumb in only one direction, as it should. You can trigger the diagonals, but you'll have to press in the exact center between the two directions, no more or less. If you press slightly off in the diagonals, you'll miss the input. With the disc D-pad, it gets a bit better, but it's still not as good compared with other controllers. And to prove my point, here's the Firefly controller from FunLab. The Thunder Robot G70, and the original Xbox controller. The GameSir G7 SE. Well, this one uses rubber membranes instead of switches, but you can see that the diagonals are very easy to hit. And here's the MobilePad T2, which uses mechanical switches too. And here's the FlyDigi Apex 3. So yeah, the D-pad in the Rainbow 2 Pro could be a lot better. But the Rainbow 2 has a very high polling rate. I tested with a dongle and it reaches 200 Hz. And with a wired connection, it reaches 1000 Hz. For comparison, the Firefly controller with a wired connection reaches only 200 Hz. The same for the Apex 3 with a wired connection. And with a dongle, the Apex 3 is even slower, reaching only 100 Hz. When connected to the computer, holding function and pressing up or down will change the volume. Holding function and clicking the right stick will enable the simulated gyro aiming. And this works with the left stick too. If you're using the controller wired or with a dongle, the headphone jack will work. And here's the charging dock. It has a pass-through port and it's similar to the Blitz dock, but the shape is a bit different, so you can't charge both controllers with the same dock. The dock holds the controller well and the magnets are pretty strong. And if you leave the dock plugged in, the pass-through port can still be used to plug any other peripherals. Leave the dongle plugged in and you'll have a quick wireless connection anytime you use the controller. To use this controller on the Xbox console, you must plug the dongle and then connect the original controller to the dongle. This will fool the system into thinking that the Rainbow 2 Pro is the original controller. But this doesn't mean that you'll be able to use the two controllers for two-player games. And if you unplug the original controller, the Rainbow 2 will stop working. I found this trick though, that if you plug the controller without batteries and unplug it, you can use the Rainbow 2 without the original controller attached. But if you put batteries and turn it on, it will stop working again. The only way to play two-player games is with a third controller. Other than that, the Rainbow 2 works perfectly with any Xbox game, and with all the extra functions including the simulated gyro. It makes games like Power Wash Simulator much more enjoyable. And you can still use the analog sticks too while using simulated gyro. And it won't work on the PS5. It won't even recognize the DualSense. It will work with PS4 games on the PS5 or on the PS4. You just have to plug an original DualShock 4. And don't forget to change the controller mode to PlayStation mode. You can unplug the controller, but it will only work for a while. After some time, the PlayStation will run the checks again and identify the controller disconnected, and it will stop working. So you must leave the controller plugged in at all times if you want to use it on the PS4 or PS5. And finally, here's the BigBigWon app. Here you can customize the lights however you want. You can use a preset, or you can change the light modes and add custom colors. You can have infinite configuration profiles on the app too. Here you can change the motion control sensitivities, curves, and dead zones. You can also configure the simulated gyro to only be activated when a button is held. And you can revert and change the axis of the horizontal gyro. Here is the configurations for the sticks. For the triggers, and you have an option for hair triggers too, though it's not really important because you have trigger stoppers on this controller. And here you can remap any button you want on the go. On the Macros tab, you can precisely customize any macro you want. Moving to the teardown, let's see how well it is built. You have 4 screws on the back on each side. After removing these screws, you can unclip and remove the back of the controller. Here you can see that the trigger stoppers are very solid. Here's the pins for the charging dock and the headphone jack. The back buttons have KO switches, and the triggers have Hall effect sensors. Here's the switches for the shortcut buttons, and you have a 1000 mAh battery. To continue, you must remove the battery and remove the 2 screws underneath. The triggers are also very solid, with a metal pivot and a strong spring. The B button is located on this board, and here you have all the switches for the function buttons. The analog sticks have potentiometer ALPS modules. And these buttons here are for the shoulder buttons. And here's the Dpad. It is slightly different from the Blitz controller, which also don't have a good Dpad. And here you can see the rubber membranes for the face buttons. On this board, you will also find the RGB LEDs for the lights. And here you can see the golden contacts for the buttons. On the front shell, the button layout cannot be changed. And here's the plastic tube that makes the LED light shine all around the controller. And here's my final thoughts. The Rainbow 2 Pro is almost the perfect controller. It works on most platforms even though it uses a workaround. It has the perfect combination of features with the 4 shortcut buttons and the trigger stoppers. And all of the functions are very easy to use. You can quickly change a button remap or record another macro. Let's not forget about the customizable analog sticks heights, the headphone jack, and the 2 options for the Dpad. But unfortunately, here is where the biggest con of this controller is. The Dpad is just not good. And the fact that it uses rubber membranes for the face buttons is another small problem. I could be cherry picking here, but I think that for a third-party controller, mechanical face buttons is the way to go. After all, if the rubber membranes go bad, the whole controller will become unusable. Unless it uses rubber membranes from original controllers, like 8-bit do that uses Super Nintendo membranes. If you have mechanical switches, you just have to change the switch, and these are much easier to find and replace. The funny thing is that the Blitz controller uses mechanical switches, but not the Rainbow 2 Pro. If you don't mind the Dpad, I do recommend the Rainbow 2 Pro, but if you play a lot of 2D games or fighting games, then you should consider picking another controller. And that's it for this review. What did you think about the Rainbow 2 Pro? Leave your opinions in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.